Much. Let's talk about all of this with Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton of Massachusetts. He's a member of the Armed Services Committee. He's also a Marine Corps veteran. He served 4 tours of duty in Iraq. Congressman, thanks very much for coming in. You suspect that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS, could already have been moved out of Iraq?
It sounds like that's a good possibility. And the fact that ISIS essentially has freedom of movement across not just Syria, but Iraq as well, is a real problem for us in bringing their organization down.
Should the U.S. be taking out all of ISIS's oil capabilities right now, not just bombing the trucks, if you will, but going after the refineries, the storage depots? As you know, Donald Trump has been recommending this for a long time.
Well, I think this is an example of where it's very hard to have a specific military strategy without a broader political strategy, without a plan for what's going to take the place of ISIS after we defeat them militarily. Because it's the political vacuum that's existed in Syria with the civil war and has existed in Iraq and allowed ISIS to sweep into Iraq. That's the fundamental problem. We can defeat ISIS militarily, but unless we have a political plan for the aftermath, we're going to find ourselves back in Iraq again 5 years after today's action, just like we're coming back now 5 years after President Obama pulled the last troops out.
So are you saying that the president, the Obama administration, does not have a political strategy in place?
I don't think we have a serious enough political strategy. I think that we've really been leading with bombs and leading with troops. If you think about what happened when ISIS had this dramatic expansion from Syria into western and then into northern Iraq, they didn't just sweep in and defeat the Iraqi army. The Iraqi army put its weapons down and went home because they had lost faith in their own government. And that tells us that fundamentally it's a political problem in Iraq today that's allowed the rise of ISIS. But what was the president's response? He sent 500 military trainers to Baghdad. Well, you don't fix Iraqi politics by training Iraqi troops. I think the military piece has got to be part of the solution. There are a lot of ISIS guys who, frankly, need to be killed, and that's the only way to defeat them. But unless an overarching political strategy to guide our military plans and to make sure we have a plan in place to fill the vacuum that will be left after we defeat ISIS, then that's not a long-term solution. So this example with the oil infrastructure, maybe it makes sense, but let's come up with a political plan so we understand who is going to take the place, who's going to take over that oil infrastructure once we get ISIS out of there. Then we can have a better idea whether it makes sense as a shorter-term military strategy.
Yeah, a lot of people make the point when the U.S. went into Iraq to get rid of Saddam Hussein, that was relatively easy, but there was no real strategy what to do afterwards. That became the big problem, why the U.S. was stuck there for so long. Congressman, stand by.